All right, so we're starting to go live. Today's a great day. Steven, where are you today? Where are we doing?
I'm in Los Angeles, the East Side, Los Feliz.
Okay.
Where are you? Are you in Miami?
I'm in Miami. I'm at our partner. It's the Aston Martin Residences. So it's a new development in Miami on Biscayne, and it's connected. It's beautiful residences right on the water, with conjunction with Aston Martin. So nice. It's called the Aston Martin Residences.
The obvious question is, do you get the use of a car?
Actually, it even gets better. If you purchase a certain type of units, you get a car.
Oh.
And yeah, so it actually even gets better. You get a certain car on some of the units, and you do get usage of the car, but some of the units you get a certain car. And then if you buy the penthouse, you get an amazing, they only made 10 of them, an amazing car. They actually have it in when you go right away. So, and it's a beautiful building right on the water.
Nice.
We'll start in a minute. And so you got the hat on. What's the name of the brand before we get into it in the introduction?
Singani 63 is the name of the brand. Singani is the spirit itself. So you would think of Singani in the same way that you would say vodka or tequila or gin. It is a very specific, recognized spirit that originated in Bolivia 500 years ago.
Well, let's get in an introduction. It's an honor from Haute Living to be doing this exclusive webinar, talking to one of my favorite writer, director, producer, and editor, Steven Soderbergh. Obviously, is most recently directed the film Let Them All Talk, which debuted on HBO Max December 10th. You also earned an Academy Award in 2000 for directing Traffic. The same year you were nominated for Erin Brockovich, which was one of my favorite movies, and the Emmy Award in 2013 for directing the HBO original film Behind the Candelabra. Soderbergh earlier received an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Screenplay for Sex, Lies, and Videotape, his feature film directorial debut. The film also won the Palme d'Or at the 1989 Cannes Film Festival, and you're the founder and owner of Singani 63. This is really the subject of today's conversation, talking about the beautiful, clear, grape-based Singani from Bolivia. Thank you so much. It's an honor to have you.
That was a mouthful. I'm sorry.
Exactly, it is. So why don't you describe what exactly Singani 63 is, Steve?
Well, I should start by describing briefly my history as a drinker. I considered myself a professional drinker and liked going to bars and restaurants and sampling all kinds of things. And at the point that I was exposed to Singani, I would have called myself primarily a vodka drinker. I would drink vodka on the rocks. And that was my sort of go-to, and I was fairly content with that. But in the summer of 2007, I was in Spain, in Madrid, and we were about to start shooting the 2 Che films. And my Bolivian casting director brought me a startup gift, and it was a bottle of Singani. And I'd never heard of it. I said, give me a 2-sentence description of this. He said, it's a white grape distillate. It's the national spirit of Bolivia. It hasn't been exported outside of Bolivia. He found it on the black market in Madrid. And I said, well, how do you drink it? And he goes, I just drink it on the rocks. And so we cracked it open. And I had one of those immediate reactions where I clearly felt that I was going to have to call vodka and tell it that I'd met somebody else. And so that started a process over the course of the 6 months of shooting for the Che films, in which I organized a mule train to have Singani follow us everywhere we went, every country we went, every location. And by the end of the shoot, a pretty significant number of the crew, myself included, had gotten really hooked on it. And so I started a conversation with the company, the producer in Bolivia, about possibly bringing it outside of Bolivia for the first time. And so, yeah, that was 13 and a half years ago. And I was just going on the fact that I thought it was totally unique. I'd never tasted anything like it. Vodka doesn't, by law, it's supposed to have taste or smell. It's supposed to be very neutral. This had an incredible sort of floral bouquet. It was very complex on the palate, and then it just disappears when you swallow it. I was used to what I called the secondary burn, which is what you get when you drink hard spirits straight. I was used to that. That's the price of entry into the end zone. But this thing just vanished. And so I was just completely hooked and thought, well, if I had this reaction, I think other people will have this reaction. I don't think I'm imagining things. Certainly all the people that live in Bolivia don't think they're imagining things. But I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I had no understanding of the spirit business or how it worked. Nothing. I knew nothing. And so that started a sort of long journey to educate myself and bring Singani to market.
Now, has Bolivia become a place near and dear to your heart? What should those who haven't been, tell us a little about tell us about it.
Well, I've gotten to know it a lot better from shooting down there and then making obviously multiple trips to visit with the Casa Real people, our producer. They're based in a region called Tarija, which is in the southern part of the country. And it's a fascinating country. The topography is incredibly varied. There are a lot of indigenous, vegetables, and like in terms of cuisine, it's an incredibly complex country, and there's some fascinating things going on there with food. But it just turns out that, several centuries ago, these Spanish missionaries had brought the Muscat of Alexandria grape with them from Spain into Bolivia. The grape itself had gotten to Spain from Egypt, hundreds of years before that. So it's kind of a crazy story of how this one grape traveled all this way, finds its way down to the southern area of Bolivia, where the terrain in Tarija is a terrible place to grow anything. It's very desert-like, it's very high altitude. And as it turns out, the struggle that this grape has to go through to survive in that terrain results in these thicker skins that give you these aromatics that are totally unique. And it has to be distilled, the grapes are grown and distilled above 5,200 feet. So the boiling point for distillation is lower. And so the bottom line is the result is all of the harsh notes just get burned off. And all that's left is this really, really beautiful, very soft representation of this very, aromatic grape. So it's a weird random story of how the grape got there. It's a random story of how my friend Rodrigo, first of all, thought he should be bringing me a gift after all the work that he'd done for me. And then on that day decided, I'm going to bring him a bottle of Singani. He told me later, I was going to get you a t-shirt. And then I decided, no, I'll get you some Singani. Think of how different my life would be if he'd gotten a t-shirt. It would be, I think, a lot less interesting.
So you actually made a cocktail booklet that you created. And in that, it seems that Singani 63 works with basically everything. Why is it that way? I mean, you have it with everything.
that was something, its versatility, it's I would argue, you know, unparalleled versatility was something that we didn't know until we started taking it around in New York to some of the top mixologists. And we would roll in with a bottle and say, what do you think of this? They would start playing with it, and we would get these responses where they would go, well, it's interesting. I sort of took it way over here on this one cocktail, and then I took it way over here on another cocktail. Then I tried a classic in this direction, and then I tried a classic in that direction. And so the feedback we were getting was, it's ridiculously mixable. And that's what you guys should really be selling when you talk to people about the brand. And then there were other people that own very successful brands that told us that's not a good story to go out with. It's too complicated. You need to have one drink that is the best with Singani, and that's how you should be selling your brand. And we just didn't feel that way. We really felt like, but this is kind of a one bottle bar. Like, shouldn't we be talking about that? So we kind of stuck to our guns, and that's been our, you know, first, you know, entry in the education process, because people don't know what this is in the US.
Well, I'm gonna have a sip. I'd like to try.
Well, I'll join you. How about that?
See, I love vodka myself, but this definitely has, like you said, a little kick in. I mean, it's very interesting.
Well, it's very fast acting, so be careful. Anyway, so yeah, we created this booklet that has 24 classic cocktails in it that you can make with Singani. And it's not, we're not just replacing a spirit with Singani. I would argue that if you were to make any of these cocktails, it's an enhancement. It's not just different. It's different in a way that makes you reapproach the drink. I mean, the fact that you can make a Vieux Carré with this, where you're substituting Singani for a dark spirit, and that it totally works. That, like I said, when we started discovering that was really interesting and helpful information for us to use. So anybody who goes on our, you know, Singani 63 website, the booklet's there. Like, you can look at all the drinks that we made.
How many drinks do you have on that?
Well, the classic cocktail book is 24 drinks.
Okay.
And then, of course, we're always posting cocktails that mixologists make around the country that we think are exceptional. We're now in the hundreds. It's really been fun to watch mixologists who I never really registered before. I mean, I used to go to bars and restaurants, but I wasn't thinking about the spirit industry when I was going there. And I gotta tell you, these people are so creative. Like, they're among the most creative people I've ever met. People who create cocktails and run sort of programs at bars and restaurants. They're fascinating. Like, their histories are always interesting. They tend to know a lot about a lot because they meet a lot of people and talk to a lot of people. And then to watch them on the fly, one of the best parts of going around and doing my, like, Willy Loman act everywhere is watching these mixologists on the fly just create something brand new right in front of you. It's so much fun. Like, it never gets old to me. I find that skill really fascinating. The ability to imagine how something's going to taste before you've actually put it together. That's really impressive.
When I was doing research, I was impressed that, I mean, you're really like 100% into this, as you've spent years petitioning the US government to recognize Singani as its own category. Tell us, like, what's the quest? Where does it stand? And like, how do you even make that happen?
Well, yeah, it's tricky. So when I became the importer and you go to the government to get licensed, we were put into the brandy category. Now, technically that's true. The brandy category is incredibly broad and it includes any fruit that is distilled. So what we determined was this is really confusing to people, especially to young people. Their associations with the word brandy are not what Singani is. And so we went and had this meeting and submitted an application in November of 2014. There were 17 people on the other side of the table representing 4 different government agencies. So we made our whole pitch to them, which is, look, by your own criteria, this should be a category. There is no other spirit in which the qualifications for being able to call it Singani are this narrow. A single varietal of grape, a 20,000 acre area in Bolivia, and it has to be grown and distilled at altitude for it to be called Singani. That's narrower than champagne or cognac or any other spirit. So we felt like we deserved it on those merits. And our other argument, because their mandate is to inform the consumer, we said, this is confusing. This is really confusing. And it's a real obstacle to us being able to build this brand. When people hear the word brandy, they think it's brown. They think of an old white guy in a library with a snifter and a cigar. And it's a real barrier for us when we have to explain what it's not instead of what it is. So now it's 6.5 years later. We are supposedly moments away from the government posting a proposed rulemaking. The Tax and Tariff Bureau posts this thing online where they say, we are proposing the following. We're going to create a category for Singani under the larger umbrella of brandy, but it will heretofore be known just like Pisco or tequila as its own category. Every week we call and say, is it going to be this week? You're going to post this? And they go, no, maybe next week. Now, that stays up for 60 days. People are allowed to publicly comment. We have a recognized Singani webpage that we have 12,000 signatures of people supporting this. We have people from within the industry writing letters to support it. So there's this review period. And then after that 60 days, supposedly, you get your category. So that's what we're waiting on. For us, it's a big moment. It legitimizes our argument that Singani is totally unique and deserving of this recognition. So it's a game changer for us in terms of the brand.
Before we started, we were talking about how you started this during the coronavirus, and you've had a shift or pivot going from dealing with restaurants and bars to more different areas. And you were reaching out to the customers more directly, going to liquor stores, and then you just launched your e-commerce literally this week, you said.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about how difficult it's been launching a product in the coronavirus, and how have you been adapting in these times?
Well, we've been in the market for a while. I think what COVID did to all of us, anybody who has a brand and anybody who has a bar or restaurant, is whatever trajectory you were on is now just been completely reversed. And nobody knows from moment to moment where this is going to go. We immediately started discussions about how do we get into the sort of e-commerce space. Like, we have a certain amount of followers through our social media platforms. We have people reaching out going, where can I get it? And we finally came to an arrangement with Cask and Barrel. And yeah, the site went up literally yesterday for Buy Singani 63. And until we know when things are going to come back, I think this is going to be a very significant space for us, as it would be for any brand, but particularly for a boutique craft spirit like this. It's really helpful to be able to just direct somebody who is aware of your brand right to a site, and they can get it delivered to their door. That's something that we'd always wanted to do, but haven't been able to do until yesterday.
And that's in all 50 states in the US?
It is in all 50 states except 3.
Okay.
Louisiana, Ohio, and Massachusetts have not yet, because all of this is moving so fast, they have not yet decided if they're okay with people shipping liquor through email and the internet to their, so I think we will get there. They all want it to happen. But it's just a new thing. As you know better than anybody, one of the frustrating things about this business generally is every state has a different set of rules. Like, it's really frustrating to you've got control states, you've got states that tax you like crazy, you have states that have other rules about what can be shipped into it. Like, there's just no coherent structure to the way spirits are sold in all the states. So it's a la carte. You've really got to deal with each state individually.
And can you share with us what the Singani 63 Society is? Tell us a little about that.
Well, as part of our e-commerce launch, everybody who orders through the Buy Singani 63 site is going to get something along with that order, a very sort of handcrafted response in addition to their bottles of Singani. And within it includes immediate and lifetime membership in the 63 Society. The full ramifications of what that means for your life going forward will be revealed very slowly, but it will provide you with some access and occasionally some information that will be exclusive to anybody in the 63 Society. So it's just part of our wanting to have a story that coexists with the brand and having the brand have a voice. We've always wanted the brand, any material, I write a lot of the copy and come up with most of the ideas for how the posts that we're doing and how we create content. And we want the brand to feel personal. We want people to feel like they're being spoken to, that it's not a committee, it's just us. And I love the fact that we can do whatever we want. We don't have to talk to anybody. If we have an idea today, we can put it up tomorrow, and we need to take advantage of that freedom.
I like that. Speaking of restaurants being closed, you've been a huge advocate of supporting our restaurants and bar owners. What's your thoughts? Do you think restaurant relief is needed? And do you think Congress will step up? Or what else can we do?
Well, yeah, I had heard yesterday, I don't know if it's true or not, that the Restaurants Act portion of this new stimulus package had been carved out. I hope that's not true, because it was designed to help the independent restaurants for the most part, because the chains got most of the stimulus in the first couple go rounds, and these independent bars and restaurants didn't get anything. And we were part of a lobbying group that was really trying to get Congress to pay attention. But I got a text yesterday from somebody saying, I heard they carved it out as part of the compromise between the two sides. And I don't understand this, because this is the walking definition of a bipartisan issue. Like the breakdown of who owns bars and restaurants is everybody. So if that's true, I would be really frustrated, because the next couple months I think are going to be really tough.
I mean, we're drinking it on the rocks straight. You're drinking it on the rocks too. What's your favorite way to drink this? I like it on the rocks. I mean, I can tell you that.
Look, that's my go-to. But there are a couple of the classics that are really good. There's a martini that we created with Coca Americano and a little lemon, slice that's really, really good, like really good. But if I'm out and I'm somewhere that happens to have it, I just go on the rocks. I really, they work so hard at Casa Real to not add anything to this grape and to pull out its essence. They use copper pot still technology that was built literally in Cognac, France. That's how they distill it. They distill it twice, and then they rest it. They rest it for 9 months in steel canisters. And then the water that's used to bring it to proof is from the mountains right next to them. So they've taken such care to not introduce any sort of foreign element into the distillation of this grape that I feel like, for me, wanting to really embrace that grape, that just having it on the rocks is perfect. Like, it's perfect.
I forgot to ask you, online, how much do your bottles sell for?
Well, our normal suggested retail price on the shelf would be $29.99, because I wanted it priced to be approachable, because in Bolivia everybody drinks this. This is not a luxury spirit in Bolivia, and I didn't want it to be perceived that way here. Now, when you go somewhere like Washington State, it ends up on the shelf at $34 or $35.99 because of the taxes that they impose, and so the retailer has to pass that along. So we tried to fight the good fight, but sometimes economic forces push you in another direction. But we wanted it to be affordable.
I think it's very affordable at the price that you said. Where do you hope to take the brand in the future? Obviously, you have big dreams. What's your dream, Steven?
Well, I got to tell you, I look at Singani as a new base spirit. Whether you are running a cocktail program or whether you're somebody who has a sort of, bar set up at home, I view Singani as one of the base spirits that you have to have if you really want to present people with all the strong options that exist. So, that is my goal, is to have Singani be that eighth base spirit that you have.
You want it to be tequila, vodka,
absolutely.
Singani.
Absolutely. It's not like any of those. I mean, you can.
I'll tell you, Steven, not to interrupt you, I was nervous because when we were saying we have to do a tasting of brandy, I'm not a brandy guy, and I was a little nervous because I said, well, this is going to be, but this doesn't taste like brandy. You're 100% correct.
No, it doesn't. We created a little video of people tasting it for the first time all over the country, and we cut together all of the notes that they were pulling out of it, what each of them said when they were having it for the first time. And it was all over the place. You would have some people say like, oh, it's like a gin. You'd have somebody say like, no, it's like a tequila. You'd have somebody else say like, well, it's kind of a vodka, but it's floral and it's smoother. And like I said, when you take it on, it's very complex in your mouth. Like, you're getting a lot of different notes, and then it just kind of disappears.
I have to ask you another question. How difficult is it for you to manage your film career? Because obviously, I mean, you're an icon, you're making monster blockbuster movies, and also your passion and your work and your business of Singani 63.
Well, I'm going to name drop. When we were doing Behind the Candelabra, I made a point of taking Dan Aykroyd to lunch to talk to him about Crystal Head vodka and its huge success and how that all worked. And Dan was really the one who said in very clear terms, if you're not willing to show up, then just don't do it. He goes, you won't win. And, you know, people want to know how passionate you are about the spirit that you're connected to. And I really took that to heart. And in normal circumstances, I'm on the road regularly, visiting markets and accounts and talking to people to just get the word out, because this is.
I mean, are they excited when you come in? I mean, obviously, you know, I mean, you're not like the normal liquor rep. So when they come in, are they, I mean, the liquor stores must be excited to meet you. I mean.
Well, look, is it you know, something different that day that happens? Yeah, I guess so. But look, I'm there to tell the Singani story, which is why I don't get tired of talking about it, because it's not my story. It's really not. And so I love talking about the history of it and why I like it and what we're trying to accomplish with the category. I enjoy talking about that. So I go on the road and I do my thing because, you know, I work in a business most of the day that's known for being a people business and for being relationship based. This is on a whole other level. Like, this is the importance of one-on-one relationships with people in this business is increased by a factor of 10 over my day job. Like, it is, you literally never know if one person that you go to meet in this one market running this one bar or restaurant could a year or two from now be the one person you need to know to take your brand into the stratosphere. Like, you have to assume that. You have to assume everybody you meet is potentially, you know, another rung in the ladder for you to get where you want to go. And so I take it really seriously. And as we were talking about before, the people are interesting. It's an interesting business. You know what I mean? They're smart, they're creative, they're passionate. I love going and talking to people that are in this business. It's fun.
What, I mean, obviously we have to talk, because this is a big week for you, because December 10th, you also, you just launched the new film,
right.
Let Them Talk. And it debuted on HBO Max December 10th, so literally this week. Tell us a little about that, and what are the challenges of such a short shooting in one location. Tell us a little about this, and educate us about what just launched also, Steven.
Yeah, so this film is about a character played by Meryl Streep, who's a very famous author. And she has the opportunity to take the Queen Mary II from the United States over to the United Kingdom. She's going to give a lecture on the ship, and then she's going to receive a prize in England when she arrives. And she decides to reach out to two friends from college that she hasn't seen in a long time to join her as her guest on this trip. And she's also invited along her nephew to sort of manage everybody and take care of everybody. And then there's a sort of secret stowaway that shows up on the ship that ends up in the mix of this group as well. So it's a comedy basically about the collision of all these characters on this ship, this extraordinary ship. So we shot the bulk of the film, about 80% of the film, on the Queen Mary II as we were crossing the Atlantic from Southampton from Red Hook in Brooklyn to Southampton in the UK. And yeah, it was a bit of a challenge. It was a live crossing. There are passengers on the ship. We're trying to navigate all of that and not get in anybody's way, but also show off, you know, what an incredible engineering feat this ship is. So it was terrifying, but really fun.
Did anyone get seasick?
Not that I'm aware of. We only had one day. This thing is so huge.
Oh, you had one day to shoot?
No, I'm just saying there was one
Oh,
day
okay.
during the 8-day crossing, there was just one day literally where you could feel the rocking of the ship because it's so massive and their gyroscopic, you know, technology is so advanced. When generally when you're on the boat, it just you're just floating.
What drew you to this script or story outline?
Well, it was something that Greg Jacobs, my producer, and I talked about actually 12 years ago. We really liked the idea of these women in their 70s going on a trip together. And for some reason, we had the idea that it should be on a boat or a ship or a cruise or something. Um, and, and I also really liked the idea of these generations talking to each other. You've got Lucas Hedges, who was 22, 23 years old, and Meryl Streep, Candice Bergen, and Diane Weiss, and they're sort of thrown together, and you get to see these two generations talking to each other in a way in which they're not making jokes about, you know, pain pills and not being able to move and being stiff, and they're not making jokes with him about not knowing any cultural references that he makes. It's a very sincere attempt on the part of these two generations to kind of engage in a real conversation. And I just feel like you don't get to see that a lot. They're usually turned into caricatures and the humor is diminishing somebody at some point. And we wanted something that was funny, but that was a little, you know, not mean. And so we set off on this trip.
You know, it's kind of, I mean, this is obviously a great time for a film to come out in support of the cruises, given how badly the industry needs it. I mean, is this something that you're an advocate for?
Well, I got to tell you, being on the Queen Mary 2, as beautiful as it looks on camera, that's how it looks. This is not a situation where you get on board after seeing the movie and you take a close look and you're like, oh, it's kind of tattered and that's dirty. This thing is immaculate. Like I would come back from the editing room every night at 2 a.m, cleaning crews everywhere. Like they're obsessive. The Cunard people are obsessive. Like it's a pretty impressive setup. I gotta say, I would do it again. I would like to do it again and not have to work. Like I didn't really get to experience, you know,
Like
the good version of it because we were working all the time, but it was a beautiful trip.
I mean, obviously, you talked about it, but what was it like to work with such iconic actresses? I mean, you had Meryl Streep, Diana West, and Candice Bergen. I mean, that's 3 amazing icons. What was it like to work with these 3 ladies?
Well, look, they were very game. They were totally fearless. They all are completely lacking in any sense of vanity, so that, you know, the speed with which we had to work, and the fact that there were, you know, the script, half of the dialogue was written and half of it was designed for them to sort of create on the spot, which is a lot of responsibility. But having people this experienced made it work. So I was just thrilled to get them. Like I'd worked with Meryl once before, but I hadn't worked with Diane or Candice. And they were, I'm just saying, these are people that when you spend time around, you're like, I want to be like them. That like they've got this all figured out. Like they're just cool.
On that note, the world has changed obviously pretty significantly in the years since the film was made. How has your personal life changed in the last year?
Well, look, like everybody, you know, from mid-March through the next 4 or 5 months, you know, I was in lockdown. My wife and I were in New York, and through all of that, and we just stayed in. We were prepared for it because all of the consultants that I'd worked with on Contagion in 2011 had said, this is going to be very serious. And so you should be prepared to not leave your house for a while. So we were ready. But I think like a lot of people, when it didn't sort of recede in the latter part of the summer and it became clear this was just not going away in any sense, that's when things got, you know, a little odd, even for somebody like me who is not struggling. You begin to wonder, like, well, when is it going to go back to normal? Like the uncertainty. We were told 3 months. Then the 3 months went by and it didn't get any better. And then we're all going like, well, when's it going to get better? And everybody is just not responding. So at that point, fortunately, I got a call from Warner. The movie that I was about to start April 1st that got shut down in March, Warner's called and said, you know, we know how involved you've been in creating the protocols for the industry to go back to work. Do you think you can remount this movie safely? And I said, yeah, I do. So, you know, I just a couple of weeks ago got back from Detroit where we shot a new film and we were able to do it safely and everybody's okay. So I'm in the very, very small percentile of people that work in an industry that has been able to basically go back to work safely. And that's a really rare thing. So I feel very lucky.
When did you, if you don't mind me asking, Contagion, when did that come out? Because I actually saw that.
That was 2011.
I mean,
so
you were right on the money. I mean, I recently saw that, and I mean, you even have some stars on CNN, you know, in the movie as the experts too, which is pretty. I mean, you were right on the money with everything. I would recommend anyone to go see the movie. It might be a nightmare to some because we're living it now. It's a true story, but you were really right on the money.
Well, this is what everybody said to us. Every one of them said, it's going to be a wet market in Asia, and there's probably going to be a bat. Every one of them. So, I mean, so it's not like this wasn't a bolt of lightning. Like we see these things coming, and so it's we just never could have imagined. Scott Burns and I, the screenwriter, when we were working on it, some of the things that have happened, you know, in the COVID world that we never would have anticipated. We were thinking kind of small in retrospect.
Well, I mean, it's amazing. So, Steven, what's next for you? Obviously, I mean, we've watched your career for such a long time, and you just keep coming up with so many great products. So, what's next for you?
Well, we're now editing the movie we shot in Detroit, which is called No Sudden Move. I was reunited with Don Cheadle and Benicio del Toro. So that was a really fun project to shoot. So we're cutting that now, and that'll be out next year. And then in an effort, a sort of craven bid to pad out my obituary, I'm going to be one of the producers on the Oscars telecast this year. So I've started working on that.
Very cool. My last question to you is, what to you, for Haute Living, it's luxury. And to you, what is the greatest luxury in life and why? So in essence, what is Haute Living to you?
Peace. I mean, peace in the sense of having the ability to experience a moment where you can really appreciate how fortunate you are, whether it's the people that you know, or in my case, you know, the fact that I feel like I have the best job in the world. But to me, you know, when I think of the word luxury, when somebody says it's a luxury to have X, I feel like it's a luxury to have the time to be still and sort of appreciate, you know, all that you have. And this is a perfect example. I'm sitting here in Los Feliz as the sun goes down, and you know, I have a glass of Singani in this moment. Like, this is my life is very, very good. And so I think that's a luxury, to be able to have those moments of just calm and peace. That's, especially now, that's exceptional.
I have a few questions from our audience, if you don't mind. I know you're busy, but
nope.
A lot of people, they had some questions love to ask. The first question is, why Singani? I mean, you talked about it a little bit, but why such the passion in Singani to make it what it is?
You know, it didn't feel like a choice. I didn't feel like, I never felt like there was a moment where I made a decision to sort of engage with it in this way. It didn't feel like a choice any more than me becoming a filmmaker felt like a choice. It felt like something that I was just going to do. And that my thinking about it wasn't going to change that. So I have to say, it really, it was very instinctual and immediate, and I haven't regretted it since. Everything that's happened with the brand and my experience with it has validated that very first reaction that I had in Madrid in June 2007. So, you know, I believe in those kind, in responding when the world sort of presents you with something like that. I believe in saying yes, and you know, never looking back and going, oh, I should have done that, I should have done this. Like, I just went for it.
The next question is when are we going to be able to buy the product in UK?
We are in the UK.
Okay, and how can they purchase it in UK?
If they go on the Singani63.com website, okay, they'll be able to find where it's available in the UK. But we are in the UK. We're even in Ireland, because David Holmes, who did the score for all the Ocean's movies for me and is doing the score for the movie I'm finishing now, lives in Belfast. And so he has now become like, he's the Irish ambassador for Singani 63. So you can get it in Belfast.
Okay, amazing. The next question is out of all your career, who was some mentors to you as you were building your career in Hollywood?
Well,
did you have a mentor, someone that helped you or you looked up to?
Yeah, no, there are several. I mean, I was very fortunate. I got the movie bug from my father. My father was an academic, college professor, a dean of education at one point, and he loved movies and took me to the movies a lot, wrote about the movies. And so he really gave me the bug. But he was also, as an educator, as somebody who taught teachers, he also had real leadership qualities that ended up, you know, being very important for me to emulate as a director, as a leader of a project and a team. And so that's where it started. When I was in high school and beyond, there was a documentary filmmaker who was teaching a film class at LSU while I was in high school that I sort of became part of this classroom, a sort of mascot of this class, and his name was Michael McCallum. And he, again, had an approach to creativity and to working with people that turned out to really be helpful to me. He had a very egalitarian attitude about how a crew worked and how ideas could flow. And he viewed, this is somebody who was, you know, much older than me and treated me and viewed me as a peer and somebody to talk to and to listen to. And as a teenager, that's an incredible thing. This is somebody who had accomplished things, and they're asking me questions. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And that was very instructive to me, that you keep, you know, a sort of open dialogue going while you're working on a project. And then later on, after Sex Lies, you know, during a period in my career where I was trying to figure out exactly what kind of filmmaker I wanted to be and what version of the entertainment industry I could function in. There were two filmmakers that I reached out to and started a relationship with. One was named Richard Lester and the other was Mike Nichols. And they ended up becoming really good friends and great people to talk to about how to keep going and how to stay true to, you know, the ideals that you started with. So as I said, I've been really, really fortunate in that regard.
Someone was so kind to put a link on. You could actually get it in the UK on Amazon. They sell it on Amazon.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't.
I've heard of Amazon.
Yeah, and Amazon sells it, so that's even easier. The next
it's getting very arty here. Look at this. This is very Godfather-like right now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we needed to, and we have Steven here, so we had to, you know, change the scenery a little bit and ended out on the Godfather signal. What is one or two go-to mixers if I don't like to drink it on the rocks? What are one or two mixers that you could recommend?
My brother is big on the Singani and soda with a tiny bit of lime. That's his go-to. He seems very happy with it. I'll also say, depending on how, you know, sophisticated a person is at home, I've also been told that the Singani Negroni is a real gateway drink. And we make it with Aperol instead of Campari. So it's really smooth. And a buddy of mine in New York said he threw a party where he made, you know, pictures of Singani Negronis. And he said it was a huge hit. Like people thought it was fantastic. So, you know, again, try it with anything. Try it with whatever your favorite mixer is. Try it. Chances are it's gonna give you a good result.
The last question is Singani 63. Why 63?
That's my lucky number. Everybody should have a lucky number.
Okay.
That is my lucky number. So it's worked out. It's worked out. And look, if we end up getting the category, the name will actually change to just 63 because Singani will be the category and 63 will be the actual name of the brand. So I'm looking forward to my lucky number being, you know, expanding.
Well, Steven, I want to tell you I was very excited today as I'm a huge fan of what you've done. A lot of your movies have been like some of my favorites. I mean, Traffic is a movie I probably have seen over 40, 50 times.
Wow, that's more than I've seen it.
It's always a great movie. But listening to you speak about your baby and the passion that you have is really, as an entrepreneur, it's exciting because you really show, you know, what it's like to be an entrepreneur, putting passion, putting your effort and putting your heart into a business. And so for us, it's an honor to spend the day with you, just have a drink with you. And I really want to thank you for taking the time with Haute Living, but also our partner. As I discussed at the beginning, we're in beautiful Miami on Biscayne at the Aston Martin Residences. So when you come to Miami, we'll pick you up in an Aston Martin, and we'd love to treat you well. So thank you so much for your time, Steven.
Oh no, Seth, thanks for giving us the time. And yeah, Miami's a great market for us. I look forward to coming down there and seeing you in person. That would mean that we're in a much better place. Exactly.
And to finish it off, if you want to buy this, you just launched the website yesterday. It's just SINGANI63.com, correct?
Yeah, or go to buy Singani 63, either one.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Steven, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Watch, here's how I'm going to disappear.
Oh, fancy.